Thank you for listening to the BJJ Brick Podcast. We'll be bringing you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and good times. We hope to flatten your Jiu-Jitsu learning curve, help you get the most out of your grappling ability, and meet your goals both on and off the mat.
Welcome back, my friends, to episode 43 of the BJJ Brick Podcast. I'm here today with Gary. What's up, man?
Doing great. Ready for another show.
All right. Got a good one for you guys. We have Ken Primola on. Gives us an interview today.
And I know you've all seen Ken Primola. He's got a lot of stuff out there on the internet, a lot of great videos, and going to definitely learn a lot from him today.
Give you a little teaser here. Ken crosses the line, and that's a good thing, and he wants you to do the same. So a little bit of a teaser. We'll talk about this afterwards, but it's important.
To cross the line.
Yeah. And you'll know it when you hear it in the interview, and just think about it, what he's saying when he mentions that, and then try to implement that into your training as well. Let's get rolling with the quote of the day. We have a quote from last week's episode when we had Shamir Shantria on. He's, like I said, last week's episode, so we'll go ahead and roll the quote from him.
I could say the one from Rock Balboa, that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how hard you hit.
Yeah.
How hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. That surprised me a lot. And even the one that I saw in a Will Smith movie, that he says to his son that don't let anybody say what you can or what you cannot do. If you want something, go for it. And I think those two, even though are very, very known and a lot of people use those, I think that came to my mind right now. Those are the most inspiring ones.
Yeah, those are good. It's not that first one. It's not how hard you could hit as hard you can get hit and keep going. That's true. Like, in jiu-jitsu and like not in jiu-jitsu, it's like in life. Things are going to happen to you that aren't good sometimes, and you need to be able to keep going through that to get your life back the way you want it.
Yeah, even like my story, what I told you, like it wasn't about how good my movie was, but it was about losing the first 3 matches.
Yeah.
And keep moving forward and keep improving and keep trying to get better, and ended up winning later. So I think that applies a lot to my personal life too.
If mentally you cannot take if you lost twice and mentally you couldn't take the chance of losing a third time, then like your instructor was worried you might quit, and you might have quit, if you weren't strong enough mentally to take that chance. So that's good.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not how hard you hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep going.
Yeah, I like how he talks about, his first 3 matches he lost. It would be real easy to quit at that time. He just kept going through it, He got derailed, but he just kept going and going. And it also goes into that second quote about, don't listen to people who can tell you what you can and can't do. There's so many negative people out there today. Negative people at work, negative people in the gym. Negativity leads to failure. You need to, have that internal motivation to just go out and do it. Don't listen to somebody who tells you can't do it. I mean, there's so many examples of people who are handicapped or whatever that are doing everything possible. So, don't listen to people who who bring negativity in your life. Just go out and take life by the horns.
Yeah, and if you missed last week's episode with Shamir, go back and check it out. He talks about he lost his first 3 tournaments, like the first match of the tournaments. Like, that's a pretty big setback. If you're not able to take that mentally, you're going to quit. Like if he quit after the second one or after the third one, he would have never became this amazing jiu-jitsu competitor that he is today. I know a lot of people have quit after losing 1 or 2 tournaments.
Yeah, it's real easy to do, and look where he is now. I mean, the guy's a superstar.
Absolutely. It's a lot of motivation in last week's interview. Really, yeah, don't let anybody tell you what you can't do.
Yeah, just go out and do it. If you want to do it, do it.
Well, the music rolling in tells us it's time for the article of the week.
What do we got this week, Byron?
It's from BJJ Hacker. Will wrote this one. It's titled, Slow Your Roll. Avoid this detrimental training mistake. And I'm going to read the first paragraph or so of it just to kind of get us on track, and then we'll just talk about what he was saying. The quality of your jiu-jitsu is determined by the strength of your mind-body connection. The mind calls the shots, stores the techniques, and adapts new information. The body carries out the orders, manifests the physical expression of jiu-jitsu. Without harmony between these two, the whole system suffers, and with it, your performance. And in this, he's going to talk about when your mind gets too far ahead of your body, and then he gives us some tricks and some tips to get them connected back together.
It kind of reminds me of going back to a few episodes ago, that Daniel Coyle stuff about training the myelin, making your myelin and your brain stronger, and your brain and your body go together.
Absolutely, and he does talk about the 10,000 hour myth or the 10,000 rep myth, and that it's you have to do a lot of practice and a lot of training, but having that magical number there can be very misleading.
Yeah, it can be detrimental, and like he talks about, and I've been in this part too, and I'm sure you have, or anybody else is trained. Your instructor tells you to start drilling this, certain move, put in 20 reps each partner, and let's say I'm going a little bit slower. I'm working on technique. It's not a move that really fits for me. I'm going slow, and I'm trying. Next thing I know, I try to speed up because I look and I see all the other groups already on the second person. But the problem is when you speed up, your reps are not going to be clean, especially if it's a move you're not really good at. You need to take that time. Don't worry about the speed and just getting the reps in. What's more important is doing the move correctly and picking up the good habits. If I start trying to go too fast and just getting the reps in, I'm going to miss a lot of stuff just to get the reps in.
Yeah.
So really, what's more important, getting the reps in or slowing it down and doing it correctly?
If you do 10,000 crappy arm bars, well, congratulations, my friend. You've got a nice crappy arm bar that's gonna do it perfectly every time.
Yeah, that's ingrained into you.
So do it right, and don't worry about so much the number. Worry about the quality. He gives a nice tip about doing some techniques, like some drills in like a super slow motion fashion, just really almost as slow as you can, just to really feel everything and to make sure you're not forgetting that little detail, and make sure that it's a tight technique for you.
Yeah, and I really like that idea. That's something I hadn't really practiced, but the more I start thinking about it, that super slow motion, you're taking your time to see every little twist and turn in that move, and it makes it a lot easier to see if you're missing something somewhere, and if you are, you can correct it at that point and then start drilling it correctly. But I really like that idea, and I'm going to add that into my game.
At the end of the article, he gives like a 5-minute meditation that he likes to do to just reconnect with everything. Check it out. There's obviously, we can't go through that on here that easily, but the article will be on the show notes, my friends. It's BJJ Hacker. You can find it on his website as well. Slow your roll. Avoid this to determine detrimental training mistake. So
definitely check it out. It'll help your game. And it's that time for our interview of the week. And this week, as we said earlier, we have a special guest, Ken Primola, with us. And you all know Ken Primola. I think I've watched more of his videos and learned a ton from him. And so can't go wrong getting Ken Primola on here.
Yep. If you're not sure who he is, the odds are you like his Facebook page. If you have the Facebook, it's I Love BTJ is his Facebook page. He's posts on there a lot of good motivational stuff, a lot of jiu-jitsu stuff. He's always updating us about what's going on. I don't know. I've been following that page forever, and it's just, if you're down a little bit, every now and then he'll post something that kind of brings you back up. Yeah. And he's talking about how he's training hard. It kind of motivates me to get out there some days when I'm not feeling like training real hard. And we talk about his page. We talk about his wrestling career, him, his start of jiu-jitsu, him as an early belt. So we have a lot of good stuff. And like I said, talk about him crossing the line.
Yeah.
So.
And also, too, one thing I'll tell you about Ken Primola is he shares so many free videos online. I've learned a lot from him, and I've never even met him in person. I've learned so much from him. But on top of that, I have almost a library of these ebooks he has. I print them out at work, put them together, and I go back and read them all the time. So I personally want to thank Ken Primola for helping my game out, and he probably has no clue how much he's helped me, but he's helped me a lot.
All right, well, let's roll the interview, guys. All right, my friends, I have Ken Primola here on the line with me. How are you doing today, Ken?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. Having a good day over here. Yeah. How about yourself? Good?
I'm doing great. It's an honor to have you on the show.
Pleasure.
I've talked with my co-host Gary about getting you on, and he's unable to make it today with the interview, but he said go for it. Anytime we're able to get you, he just said go for it. So it's just you and me today, but we're going to have a good time.
Cool.
If somebody who doesn't know who you are, which I'm sure a lot of them do, but and some may not even realize who you are, could you kind of describe yourself to the average jiu-jitsu person?
Yeah, I am. I'm a guy who started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu back in about 1999. I was a wrestler before that. I wrestled since I was 12 years old. And a friend of mine introduced me to Jiu-Jitsu, and I've been doing it for about the past 15 years, and I really like it. I've competed all over the world. I've trained all over the world. I've won several different events. I've won the Masters World Championship in Brazil. I've won Pan Am Brown Belt Adult in New York. And I've spent a lot of time competing, training, having fun, and traveling the world, for jiu-jitsu. Lived in Brazil, stayed in Hawaii, lived in San Diego, met a lot of friends, good people, and done seminars all over the world. And I've been involved in teaching like online for a long time. I had a school. I ran that for 5 years. I've taught at many different schools. I've taught for maybe, for 10 years. And, I just enjoy it. I enjoy teaching people, and I enjoy what I get out of the art. And it's been really fun and exciting time for me in my life to be involved with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
It sounds like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has taken you a lot of places and shown you a large part of the world, and you've had some amazing experiences with that.
Absolutely, yeah. It's definitely become an outlet to allow different areas of the world to see because of the work that I've put in. So it's been nice to be able to do that, and hanging out with jiu-jitsu people is always cool because they're fun, and I definitely enjoy that part of it.
That's right. There's something about the community that does jiu-jitsu. They're usually pretty fun people.
Yeah, absolutely. It's. I had a friend, and she was. This was a few years ago, and she was talking with me about jiu-jitsu, and because you have like that physical connection on the mat, and same thing with wrestling. Like everything's kind of taken away, and you really get to know a person. I think in those physical contact, those contact sports where it's just like there's just a bond there. Because once you roll and you're engaged in a physical fight against somebody, so much about them, and I think you feel kind of a close bond there, and I think it's there. It's kind of unspoken. Like when you're training with somebody, you know a lot about them, and a friendship evolves. Yeah,
it's similar. It's like a bonding experience, similar to if you go through a hard time with somebody, or you go through any sort of experience with somebody. You're doing that a lot in jiu-jitsu. It's over and over again. Like you said, like the physical aspect of it, and I have a lot of friends that I hardly ever even like touch, and then in jiu-jitsu, it's like we just maul each other constantly, and and I don't think about it, but it does build strong friendships.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just like the wrestling. A lot of those people, like, we know what we went through together, and it's just there, if I see them later on in life, it's always there, and it's just part of being a human being,
Yeah. Ken, what do you do off the mats to have fun or to stay busy?
To stay busy? Well, I do a lot of like marketing. Obviously, you've seen like my jiu-jitsu stuff I do. I used to work in business, do legal work, and then I went into online marketing. So I do that on my days as my job. That has many different parts. I work on different websites. I do consulting. I work on Facebook. That's pretty much where a lot of my time is spent. And then, I'll talk with friends, communicate with friends, here and there, go out. But a lot of my time right now is work. And then what I like to do is, every few months I take like a vacation, maybe do jujitsu and stuff like that. So like, I grind a lot of the time at this point in my life, just because I have a lot of stuff to get done. So that's kind of like what I do. I would say like my day is I wake up, I do a lot of work online, emails, whatever I have to do. And then, I'll work out. I see a trainer, maybe talk to some friends or see a friend or whatever. And then, I work and, sometimes on the weekends I'll get out and do some things, but I'm kind of one of those people that like works really hard. And, that's, I believe in that 100%. In terms of accomplishing your goals and your mission, and I believe like it's really mental in terms of how you do it, and I'm one of those people that everything in my life, wrestling, law school, everything I've accomplished has because I put my head down and did it, and just stuck to it and didn't get sidetracked by any other means. So that's how I live, and it's kind of crazy. Some people think, but whatever.
Do you think that your wrestling, you wrestled before you did jiu-jitsu, do you think that work ethic has affected you off the mat and made you work hard everywhere else?
Yeah, and it's the John Smith, a great wrestler, he talks about like separating the two worlds and how you could be one way when you're not on the mat and one way when you are on the mat. And I'm not sure how much I believe him. Because I know as a coach and as a person, he's a hardcore person. Dan Gable's a hardcore person, in life, and it's not like about like just being driven and hardcore as in like a hard person. Like it's just about your attitude and everything that you do. And I think wrestling has enabled me. My coach used to say, if you're tired, don't show me. I just saw my trainer a half hour ago, and I'm doing push-ups and sit-ups, and like. I don't want to show that. And that comes from that. When I'm working, there's distractions, there's things that bog you down, and like you don't want to be negative. So it's like, it's all that mindset of like hard work solves anything. And it's like, you can tone it down. You can have fun, but like no amount of success for me is going to make me relaxed and say, oh, I'm done, because you have challenges, you have goals. We're human beings, and we want to, that challenge is great. We accomplish it, and then it doesn't have that much meaning, and then we have another challenge. And there's also challenges within just being relaxed and having fun and being happy, and I know how to do that. But, I also know that sometimes, and I learned from relaxing. I learned from going fishing. I learned how to strategize with that and apply it to my business, apply it to my jiu-jitsu, learn patience. Not like I'm thinking like all the time, how can I do this and help my business or help my jiu-jitsu? But like there's a calm within it, and there's a calm, for some people, I know I'm going on a little tangent, and I say, and I want to, for the reason, like for some people, working hard, like the wrestling mindset is a sacrifice, but like if it is something that that you accept, it's really not that much of a sacrifice. It's just what you do, and it's just what you enjoy. Because I don't enjoy doing other things that may be more mundane. I enjoy, like it's exciting for me to do marketing. It's exciting for me to do business. It's exciting for me to go through failure, because I keep looking at the prize. Like, wow, when I get here, this is gonna happen. Just like you're training for a tournament. When I get here, this is gonna happen. Does that make any sense to you?
Absolutely. It sounds like you've made working hard into more of a habit, and it doesn't take you. It doesn't drain you mentally to say, I'm going to get up, I have to work hard today. It's just what you're going to do. Like, there's no extra effort to thinking about that. You roll out of bed, you're going to work hard all day today, and it's not like oh man, I got to go to the trainer, and that's going to beat me up, I'm going to be tired from that. You're used to working hard, on and off the mat. It's just is part of who you are, and it sounds like it's benefited you greatly throughout your life.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. And I think it comes down to, just how you see yourself and how you value yourself, where it's not like, again, it's not to be anything. It's not to be different. It's not to be tough. It's just to, you will be satisfied if you accomplish what you really want to accomplish. And it's just that simple. It's not even called like hard work or anything. It's just like, my wrestling coach in college used to say, like, hey, if you want to be good, wrestling's so fun. But if you want to be good, it's not always going to be fun. So it's just like, yeah, if it was all fun, you accept that it's going to take something more to get whatever you got to get done. So yeah, I mean, that's really, I guess, my mindset there. Yeah. So
it depends where you want to take it as far as how good you want to be, how much sacrifice, and some of the fun may go, with your training hard. If somebody hasn't seen you on the mats or haven't rolled with you, how would you describe your style of jiu-jitsu?
I think I'm somewhat basic. I have a decent guard. I have decent passing. I have good cardio, and I'm not afraid to get submitted, and I'm gonna go the whole time, and I'm not gonna give up, and I like to learn, and no matter who they are, if it was a white belt that rolled with me, if it was a lighter or female, if it was anybody, even a kid, I'm gonna roll where they can roll with me safely, and we can have a lot of fun, and we can both learn while we're rolling. I definitely think anybody that rolls with me, I have skill that's going to help them, and I can take something from them. So that's what I think of like, if nobody knew me or they wanted to learn something about me or the way I roll, that's how I roll. I'm not like I don't believe in being like brutal, mean. I like to be safe, and I like to think that anybody that ever rolls with me, it'll be like, man, that guy's really smooth. He was really cool to work with. He was a good partner, and I didn't like break my back after I was done with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's those are all good traits to have for a coach or a grappling partner, and I think anybody would be well suited to adapt those to their game and to be. It takes some skill to roll smoothly with a smaller person, and it takes some skill to make the match competitive with a lower level person without crushing them, and then a little back and forth so they get to grow, and like you said, you're still able to learn while you're rolling with a lower level person because you're working on things that you're maybe not so good at, or I don't know how do you do that? How do you roll and learn when you're with like a purple belt or a blue belt?
I mean, it's like this, like I could ask you the same question. So you've been doing like a lot of podcasts, right?
Yeah.
So you develop, like, you're good at it. You know how to ask questions. You know how to have dialogue, and that's like a skill that you've refined. Would you agree?
I'm getting better, I guess.
Well, you seem good. You seem like you do a great job. And excuse me, I would say the same thing for like anything in life. It's just like you're conscious of it, and you just become it. So it's just like you probably become very aware of it because you're kind of like cautious, and like you see things, you see all the mistakes, and then you're kind of like you step back, and then you start to do it, and you're very like probably aware, more aware than someone like myself who's not doing this. So you could tell me, hey, Ken, you should do this, you should wait for them to answer. Here's when you should interrupt. Here's how you should interrupt. Here's how you should begin. Here's how you should start. So that process that you learned, I think, is the same thing like when you roll. And you could do it like how you do it, and obviously you seem like you're good at it, or you could just like be hard-headed about it. If you're hard-headed about it, the podcast isn't going to last. If I'm hard-headed about rolling, then I think, my training partners aren't going to last. So it's the same thing for anything. It's just like, and I give that answer where it's almost like obnoxious here to do it, to make that analogy, because they're so far apart, but they really are not far apart. It's just like, it's so hard for me to answer it because I could say, well, I go 50%. What's 50%? Well, I make my arms loose. It's just, you're relaxed.
Yeah.
You're confident. You're relaxed giving the interview. You're confident. You're not stressed. You're not breathing hard. And that's how it should be. And you feel it out. And then people are like, man, the way your podcast is, it's just like, it flows so well. And when I train jiu-jitsu, it flows well. And it's just like, and what do you expect? Like, you don't want to, you've got manners. You don't want me to be like, man, that guy's so obnoxious. And when we roll, it's the same thing. I don't want you to be like, man, like, I know if I like elbowed you in the, in the groin, you know what I mean? Like same thing. So anyways, go ahead.
I like your analogy. It basically, learning, is similar across many spectrums. It comes down to looking at what you're doing, fixing your mistakes and getting back out there. And you can do that rolling with a blue belt or a white belt, and help them grow as well. You could drill a little bit more and train and your analogy, I'm thinking, as I edit my podcast, I have to listen to myself, up to an hour or over sometimes. And sometimes it's like, oh, what am I doing? This is terrible. I can't stand the way the question I asked, it wasn't any good. So I constantly interview, and then I have to listen to the interview again and edit it, and then I'll learn better for next time. Maybe not fix my problem exactly, but I get better. Same thing with jiu-jitsu. You're constantly reviewing what you're doing, and you're getting better.
Yeah, and it seems like, in terms of like the flow or slow rolling, like, you may think what you think about yourself, but I can tell. I've been on a few different podcasts, and I could tell it goes smoothly, and it's just like easy. You know what I mean? So it's just like, I can see that whether you can or you can't, you've come to that point where it's natural for you, and that would be the same in terms of what I think about slow rolling. And I'm sure you probably get slow rolling because, some people don't get rolling at all, and it's obviously parallels other parts of their life if they don't get those other parts. And I think the saying is, if you know one thing well, you know many things. And you're a nice guy, you're calm. I'm sure you don't go on the mat and try to rip people's heads off because you just don't sound like that from what you're doing right now. And I think that jiu-jitsu isn't. Again, it's hard to separate that world from other parts of your life. I don't know. Maybe you're a madman on the mat and you try to rip people's legs off. I don't know. I'm going to guess I'm correct in the other regard. Would you agree?
I hope you're correct. I try to have fun with the people I roll with, and I go harder with the guys that are more skilled, and I try to the lower level belts and try to make sure it's fun, and if they won't have any questions, always trying to help.
There you go.
I'd like to talk a little bit about your Facebook page.
Okay, go ahead. Anything you want to know?
I love BJJ. I guess Facebook / I love BJJ. How's that going for you? I know it's got a ton of likes, and you're posted on there multiple times a day. I guess I should say, if you're listening to this and you haven't liked it, swing by there, like it. A lot of good motivational stuff, a lot of jiu-jitsu news coming through, you're posting your workouts on there a lot of times, and it's just like, yeah, you are working hard, and sometimes I'll be having a little bit lazier every day, and Ken's out there doing it. So what are some of your goals with your page there?
Well, I'm into like the whole internet marketing, and I have for Facebook, you want to get engagement. That's the goal. It's not always like likes. It's really like engagement. It's not really like selling stuff directly. And I want to get traffic. I want to get engagement, and I want to get leads for things that I'm trying to offer people. At different times, or I want to get hits to a website, which can also, generate leads, and then those can, convert into sales and different things I want to sell. So like those will be my goals, and a lot of the times I have to keep up with the traffic, and it's hard. Like Facebook, crunches the percentage of people that can see your stuff. Right now I'm in a slump. Last week I was doing really good. The week before I was in a slump. So it's just like it's a challenge like anything to grow a page, and it's a challenge to get engagement. But my goal, isn't necessarily brand building. It's really about lead generation, clicks to a website, and then just seeing what really, really works and trying to go into like other niches based off of what I do in the jiu-jitsu niche. And just, like I'm more of like, instead of like, I'm obviously a fan of jiu-jitsu, I'm obviously a fanatic, but I'm more of a marketer than anything in terms of my field of study. So it's not like, hey, I just do this for I do it for fun, but there's work involved in the sense where I'm like, what I do is strategic, a lot of the times calculated, and it's a well honed skill, and it's also a difficult, challenging skill because there's a lot of failure involved, and I expect to fail with a lot of my posts. I expect people to take things. I expect a lot to go wrong, but I really, really try to figure it out, and I try to figure out why things are happening, factors that could be adjusted to make my page really successful. And the most, it was for a period of time, I'd say the most successful. Now there's bigger pages. Some people have bought fans. Some people just have more money. Some people just have bigger pages in general because maybe their topics are hotter. But a lot of what I see is a lot of people have modeled some of this stuff that I have done because I've created a lot of the things there. But they've also a lot of the other people that are doing really well are also good marketers, and some of them aren't even really jiu-jitsu practitioners. Like I love the page like BJJ Video Vault, but the guy who runs it, he's not like I don't know how much he is into jiu-jitsu. I'm not even sure to what extent, but he's a good marketer, in other markets too. So he's good at that. He's good at like Facebook and stuff like that. So yeah, my goal is to make a living, make a good living. I'm doing some things, that are really working for me right now from Facebook that are outside of Facebook. So, there's so many different ways and to make a living online and use Facebook as part of your traffic source. Go ahead.
Those are your goals. It seems like to me anyway, you accomplish these goals by helping people either get better at jiu-jitsu or stay motivated, for on the mats, and that seems to be the method to getting there. So it's not like you're just you have your goals and you're going for them. It's beneficial to the jiu-jitsu community that you're helping everybody and trying to get and do good things to reach your goals.
Yeah. Obviously, a lot of people obviously know who I am, and I've had so many videos, for free on YouTube for such a long time. I put up ebooks out there, and there's a lot of help. There's a lot, I have a lot of emails. I deal with a lot of people. I communicate with a lot of people, and I try to help people as best I can, and it's a give and take, and it, and everybody knows it who's working with people and helping people. It's all about your time. Like a lot of time I give for free. A lot of time, people, will purchase things or purchase my time. But I think having that, those friendships and that communication and being able to, when you talk about like, hey, inspiring or doing this, it's just we all can inspire in because we all live the life. Like, hey, you went to jiu-jitsu today, you trained with a guy and you helped him out. Man, if you went on Facebook or you told other people what you did, there's probably other people with the same problem as him, and maybe you recognize something. I just happen to speak about a lot of the things that go on, and a lot of people don't like to speak or don't like to express themselves. So because I did, a lot of people, I guess I got known, and and some people don't like it, some people do like it, but the bottom line is the more you are able to talk about things in your community, the more you're going to be known. I mean, I'm on a podcast now because of that, and people know me all over the place. And it doesn't mean I'm the best or I've given back the most. It's just I've mentioned a lot of it more than a lot of other people, so it becomes well known. It's not like I'm the 10-time world champion, but some people probably know me more than people that are champions because I've put myself out there, and there's risk with that, but at the end of the day, unfortunately people that, our community is such a humble community, but unfortunately sometimes, like, if people never say anything, there's not much opportunity for them at times. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to, like you're saying, you're in the jiu-jitsu community. It's a humble community. To me, you're different than the others that have the big pages because maybe you weren't there first, maybe you were, but I liked your page a long time ago. I feel like I've gotten to know you very well, and you don't know me, but just because I see you're at least a couple times a day, you're in my news feed, and what's going on with Ken, I get to see, and so I think that builds some relatability and some trust with you, opposed to the page that I end up liking just so I stop getting the advertisements to like that page. It drives me nuts sometimes. And so I got a little rambling here, but I'd like to get a little bit more back into jiu-jitsu. Can you think of anything? It's been a while since you've got your black belt, but can you think of like a big lesson you learned since you've gotten your black belt?
Yeah, I think again, like, and I'm sure you would agree with this if you think about it, or if you've already thought about it. Most of what we know, we know, and it just comes out, and it just, it's we re-explore things, we re-examine things, and I think as a black belt, like my biggest lessons are when I was a white belt, and I go back to those, and those weren't always technical lessons. They were lessons about patience. They were lessons, like how you think like, oh yeah, I know I'm supposed to do that. Oh yeah, I learned that a long time ago. Or oh yeah, somebody told me to just relax. And then you're a black belt and you're going 100 miles an hour, and you're just like, man, like, maybe I should do what I tell other people, So it really goes back to understanding. I think I understand as a black belt what's important to people, what matters to people. I know belts matter to people. I know tapping people out and matters to people, because that's something that I'm intelligent enough to realize. Even though people say belts don't matter and tapping out doesn't matter, I know that when I roll with somebody, that's really what a lot of people care about. So I'm smart about that, and I understand those things, and I'm able to be calm in situations. Not saying it matters to me like ego-wise, but like I understand that. I understand the culture, I understand the community, and I understand human beings and their what they're after. And I think understanding that as a black belt has made me very intelligent when I roll. I try to roll very safe. I try to roll very smart. And I try to be very smooth and calm 100% of the time, even keel, where it's just like not like, how like, oh, there's these blue belts and like, which is great, blue belts are great, but like, blue belt, white belt, any belt actually, so any belt, even black belt, like, they're so calm and they don't care about ego. Then they go on there and they're freaking. It's like a freaking dogfight because they're going to get tapped. I don't feel that is me. Like if I'm in trouble, I feel I'm more calm than aggressive. And I think like a lot of people, I never really was like that, but I think I've come more into my own to really, really not be like that. But I think a lot of people like. It's like a different personality comes out, like I talk to my students, hey, well, what happened here? Well, I didn't want to tap to him, or I didn't want to like, and it's just like, well, didn't we just have this conversation the other day, how like tapping isn't the end of the world? Do you know what I'm saying, Byron?
Absolutely.
So as a black belt, I've become more realistic with being realistic and knowing myself and knowing, just like anything, man, like your jiu-jitsu should not be different than your podcast. Like you're calm, relaxed, you can analyze it as you're doing it. But if you go into jiu-jitsu and you're a maniac, how do you expect to learn it? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. I like how you related to some of the lessons you've relearned or you keep thinking about are from when you were a white belt. Staying calm and thinking about the instruction you got a long time ago, and it's still with you today, because we're all getting that advice, and sometimes, even for years, you don't listen to it. You could, I think I was a pretty rough blue belt. I really wanted to tap people out as a blue, and I don't remember. I think I calmed down a little bit as a purple belt, but as a brown belt, it is more about fun, and it is more about training safely. And I really don't want to get anybody hurt, and I don't want to get hurt. But I do want to continue to get better and grow. So I think that's I could relate to those early lessons, showing back up again and again, and as I roll, and trying to get better and trying to stay safe and having a good time. And like you said, tapping is not the end of the world. It's not a big deal. It's way better to tap than to be away for a little while with an injury.
Exactly.
You've competed a lot. Can you tell us any things that you might do before you step on the mat to compete? Go
ahead.
Like a pre, competition thing that you go through.
I think getting warm, getting your body temperature up is something that's wise to do, because sometimes people go in there cold, especially in cold gymnasiums. Maybe you get there a little bit early, find your spot where you can warm up, because some of the tournaments are a little bit hectic. Sometimes there's not mats. Maybe you find a partner to drill with and warm up with, because you don't want to be like all confused before you got to compete and stressed out about how you're gonna warm up. If you got to lose weight, bring all of the stuff that you need to lose weight. So come prepared. Pack your lunch in that regard, and be ready to focus on what you need to focus on. So have everything in order, then focus on your match. And in terms of the match, I think nerves are normal, nerves are natural. But if you've prepared the way you should prepare, you should still be nervous, but confident when you shake that person's hand. And even if you're not ready or really realistically prepared, it's really just the self-respect when you step on the mat and you just say to yourself, I'm going to do my best, regardless of winning and losing. And hey, if my focus is to always be making action attempts and doing stuff, it's really you're not thinking about winning and losing. You're just thinking about, man, I want to get this sweep, being in the moment. So those are the things I think about. I like to make sure I have my warm-up. I like to make sure I have my partners. I like to make sure I have everything organized. And if it's not going to matter. I'm still going to be mentally tough enough to deal with whatever is thrown at me. And then when you step on the mat, I've competed all my life since I was a kid. I don't have a problem. I don't, I get in there, and it's just it's not something I have to think about much. And then it's just about reacting and doing what you do best and putting it all out there. And I think the hardest thing sometimes for people to do when they compete, and sometimes they come back and they're like, oh, I could have done this. I should have done this. Oh, I forgot to do this. Because they put so much pressure on themselves. But when you can really have the courage to put yourself out there, to get tired, to go past that line, and to fail and say, man, I was gassed out, but at least you gave it your all. You get so much out of that, I feel, as a competitor. That's my answer to your question. It's a little long-winded. It got off to the mental and to the physical, but that's really my best answer.
I like it a lot. You talk about not focusing a whole lot on winning or losing, but focusing on doing your stuff, your performance, and doing your best. I like that a lot, because you really can't control. It may sound weird, but you can't control if you win, because that has to do with somebody else. I don't know who that person is, and if they, if I'm going to play my butterfly guard game, and he's got a great butterfly guard pass, that's right there. I'm probably going to lose. If I pull butterfly guard, he's going to smash right through it. I can't control that. That's done a long time ago. But I can control if I play my game, and I need to try to do that and see if it works out. And so focus a lot on performance, and don't. And I think that wanting to win so bad, it does cause a lot of extra nerves that you can't really do anything about. Yeah,
absolutely. And let me just add to that, and just say, somebody says something really wise to me. I lost a few years ago in a match, and they said, Ken, you're not competing a lot at the moment. And he said, you know how you get good at competing is you compete a lot. He says, so, don't worry about it. You lost. And what he said was really, really true. Like, and again, I go back to the analogy because it's, present. If you stop doing podcasts for a long time, you're probably going to be rusty. So the more you do them, you're going to get more viewers and more viewers. They get better and better and better. You realize maybe it's the headline, maybe it's the questions you ask, maybe it's the way you talk about the most controversial thing in the interview and you put that headline up. I'm not telling you that, but that's probably like a good way, right? So you learn what gets you the views. And that's the same thing. I don't know any competitors that just came out the gate and just started dominating everybody. And I think and listen, I've been doing internet marketing 5 to 7 years, and I failed. I failed in business. I failed in marketing. And my goals were I was supposed to not be here. I was supposed to be in California many months ago. But the process didn't finish for me, and there was still stuff I have to learn. So I put my 100% effort in every day to keep continuing on to do what I have to do. And what I look toward, my focus is very positive, where I see my end goal in sight and I write it down and this is where it's going to be. I don't really care if I'm failing every day because I know what it takes and I know what I have to do. And when I used to compete, I used to lose all the time, but I knew if I kept going, I would win. And then I started to win tournaments because that's what happened. When I was in law school, I used to fail. When I was in grade school, I used to fail. But I know if you persist, you will figure things out. It's like a gambler, that gets really good. It's really easy to see that your money's you're losing money. So you become better at poker because it's so visual what's happening. Your money is dwindling. So if you keep doing these podcasts and then you get 50 views, 40 views, 30 views, you're gonna start to make a change to make it better. And some people don't like competing because they fear they suck or they're not going to be good. But competing is really a product of competing.
Yeah, am I getting it right? I could stay in the gym all day, and train and get better. But actually, when I go to compete, I'm missing something that I'm not getting just from rolling. I'm missing the butterflies every time I step on the mat. When you compete. So even you train all the time, but still, to get better at competing, you need to be out there competing and doing it. And it's going to there's going to be a little bit of heartache. You're going to have some losses. You're going to have some lessons learned the hard way. But that's just the way it is. Would you say that's correct? Am I getting that from you? Absolutely.
I mean, obviously, you can train with you can train with competitive restrictions within your training. That can help too. But it's rare. I'm just going to say it's rare to maybe I could just compete today and go in the white belt thing and do great because I'm a black belt. But it doesn't mean I'm doing my best and when I go against black belts, I have to be prepared and I have to be ready. And sometimes it's not that I should expect less than to be the best every time, but if for some reason I go into the black belt world championships today and I get my butt kicked and I haven't competed in 3 years, it shouldn't make me give up. And it shouldn't be an excuse either, but it's just the reality of how you deal with that failure, how you deal with losing. And if it makes you go away, then it might make, if you can quit jiu-jitsu, if you can quit competing and you want to do it, then what else can you quit? So if you don't want to compete, that's fine. Nobody has to. It doesn't make you better or worse. But if you do want to compete, but you fear you're not going to be good or you fear that you're going to have fear, then I think you're selling yourself short. And my lesson and why I'm saying this is because, I look at, there's a guy named Pat Smith. I don't know if you've heard of him in wrestling. He was John Smith's younger brother. John Smith was a 6-time world champion.
Yeah.
And, Pat Smith's, his record in college, his first 6 matches, he was 0-6. And if you know anything about Pat Smith, he was the first 4-time NCAA champion Division I wrestler. And so basically he came back from 0-6 to win the national title that year, to win it the next year, to win it the next year, and to win it the next year. So it's just if you keep at it and you want to be the best you can be the best that you can be. But I think sometimes, but again, it's you. It's not what other people think of you. Oh man, I keep losing. My friends think I suck, and like I can't do it. I can't put myself out there. What are they going to think of me? What are my students going to think of me? Just like me, like, oh man, I'm supposed to be here in my life. What is everybody going to think of me? You have to care about what you think about yourself, and you have to have blinders on to what anybody else perceives of you if you know that you're going to get to where you want to get. And that's all you really have to know. It doesn't mean you can't be not open to other people's advice, but if you have a set goal, hey, I want to be a world champion. Hey, man, I know I'm going to be a world champion, and I'm going to make it happen. It's going to happen. I'm going to take the action, and when things don't go my way, I'm going to figure it out, and I'm just going to take it as a bump in the road, but still go on to do it and have that positive mentality. And that's a fact of life, that most people do succeed in life because of their mindset and what they have seen as their end goal and their purpose. You know what I'm saying? And I've seen like your page. You run the BJJ Brick, right?
Yes.
Yeah, like you talk about like you had something about the 10,000 hour rule. You had, different, like you have different stuff on success and mindset and stuff like that. It seems like on your page, and motivational quotes and that's it. Like some people just don't have directions or strategies or the knowledge to they could still be the same level as competitor as me, and then somehow I get to a spot because I thought I could get there. Like Conor McGregor's good at it, like the law of attraction. He's like, hey, it's how I see myself as the champion, then you are the champion. Does it mean he's really good? I don't know. He just seems okay, but like he believes this stuff, and that means he could probably maybe get it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I love how we're getting into the like the coaching aspect of jiu-jitsu and the mental side of things. You mentioned earlier, your coach said, if you're tired, don't let me see it.
Don't show me. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
I see that. I see that a lot more in wrestling than jiu-jitsu. Like in jiu-jitsu, if we get off the mat and I'm on the bottom, so whether it's side control or mount or whatever, I'm having a hard time. And we get off the mat. A lot of times the guy on the bottom will just kind of like crawl back to the middle of the mat, and it's very clear and obvious that person is tired. And I think more in wrestling that they get up on their feet, they'll look their opponent in the eye, on the walk back over to the middle, and they'll get back down where they're supposed to be. But I think like the mental side of the game, it's different, and I think it'll change eventually in jiu-jitsu, but it's probably not a good strategy to crawl back to the middle of the mat exhausted if you could help it. Would you agree to that?
I think I did that in my last tournament.
I'm sorry, man.
But yeah, I agree. You could look at like the Brands brothers or Dan Gable matches from Iowa, and like they run back.
Yeah.
And again, it is really like, like today, my trainer, we're doing like push-ups, and she's like, I had to do all these sets of like 5 push-ups. So she's like, oh, you're tired. So like I started doing sets of 20, but it's not about challenging her. It was just about self-respect for myself and challenging myself. And my coach would say, here's a line. People don't want to go over it, but he says, but when you cross that line, like you're still okay. And those lines, those invisible lines, oh, if I have to work this much harder, I'm going to die. Like, you're not going to die. You're going to be fine. So 2 things I took. If you're tired, don't show me. And those invisible lines, that you have to cross. And once you start to do that, it changes how you feel physically. Because I know when I go out of bounds, if I look real tired and he looks real tired, what if I don't look tired and I just look real confident and I have my chest out like I just started? That can crush a guy. That can crush your opponent mentally. And that starts in the room. Like when you're doing sprints, with my guys, always have my head up. Always don't put my head down and start crawling after the sprints. Even though I'm super tired, get up and just act like nothing happened. And to do that mentally at any point and to continue to do it, it becomes your lifestyle. I used to do it in law school too. People were crying before they have the test, and I'm like, why do you look like you're sleeping, Ken? It's just like I don't need to show you that I'm worried because I'm going to be worried. I want to show you that I want to show myself that I'm confident because I am confident. And again, that stuff's just like, I'm sure you understand and maybe you study, but it's all state of mind. And you talk about like, it may not be infused in jiu-jitsu because jiu-jitsu a lot of the times is recreational. Not everybody wants to be coached for competition, and not everybody, there's no like, it's paid as, there's no like, you don't go to school for jiu-jitsu oftentimes how to teach, how to be with people. My school was wrestling. That's how I teach other people how I was taught as a wrestler, and it was a hard lifestyle. So that is what I know, and that's what I give back. If they haven't had that, they may be giving something different back and maybe a different martial arts background. I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm just saying what I do. But go ahead.
I've got a question for you about like a student of yours, if they're going to have their first tournament, what advice would you give them coming into that?
Yeah, I get that question a lot, from people. I'd say, have fun and, have fun and be as prepared as you can be with your cardio. And that's going to make you more confident, because a lot of times people are not confident. Like, what if I'm dead? What if I'm tired? What if my grips fail? And like, they really fear more than anything the guts to give it their all, because they don't know how much their all is, and they're nervous and scared that they might get out of breath. And I think when I would tell people like, Dan Gable, he did this in Iowa. Like, there was one wrestler, he wasn't sure about his conditioning. Man, he had the guy waking up at 2 a.m. to run. He had him waking up at 5 a.m. to run. So when he went for that national championship, his doubts were removed about conditioning. So if you want to remove your doubts, I think conditioning is an important one to remove. But being fine, being okay with not being okay. So you could take the pressure off and say, hey, man, don't expect to win this tournament. So when they win the tournament, it's not trying to be negative, but it takes all the pressure of winning off. And I think it was Royler Gracie who said, his father, Elio Gracie, would say, if you lose, you get $10. If you win, you get $1. So it's reverse psychology, but it takes the pressure off. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I've never heard that one before. That's an interesting way to prepare the student with the $1. If you win, you get a
I've just heard that story from Royler, but like, the point is like, nowadays, especially, you have to be delicate with people, and because it's good to be it's good to be nice to people.
Yeah.
And because there's not the uniformity within every team, you have to be delicate, because it's hard to change. Like, man, if I run a boot camp, then I could run it like that and say, get in there and kick ass. But if you're not running a boot camp and you're just running a program, to make that big adjustment and they're not used to that mentality, it might be difficult. So you can let them want to get that mentality if they want to get it. And it's really simple. Like, to answer some of the questions, like, how do you become prepared? How do you cross those lines in practice? Just keep sprinting until you puke. Just keep going for a half hour every day and sprint until your lungs are burning and you feel like, the worst thing in the world. And then every day your cardio is going to increase, and then you push yourself, and then you have 10 people do a shark tank on you when you're in practice, and you go till exhaustion, and you go till you're lying on the mat, and until they're tapping you, until everybody's beating you. Then the next day you're better. The next day you get better. And that's simple, but people want to make it complicated, But like, to get that person to say, man, I want to be really good in competition, to get them back, to just bring them in, make it fun, make it easy, and then they should say, oh, I really want to get better. And then, like, maybe they make those decisions. This isn't always fun. This is actually hard to be really good. Now I have to do this, this, and this. Do I want to do that? Yeah, I want to be a good competitor. All right, let's do this. Nah, competing isn't that fun for me. I like doing this other stuff. So I'm just going to kind of be recreational competitor. Because again, jiu-jitsu is recreational and competitive. Wrestling is only competitive. So there's no choice in wrestling. This is the way it is. You got to win. That's what means anything. In jiu-jitsu, there's a lot of other aspects to it. And maybe someday it'll be different, but like right now, it's a business. It's not taught in schools like wrestling is in high school and junior high school and clubs, but it's still all competitive regardless. I know that's really complex, but that's really a difference that I see that just is.
Yeah, and I'm thinking back on that $10 versus $1 example you gave. Maybe it's like the $10 is like a huge benefit to you, and the $1 is a small benefit. So like if you lose and you take it the right way, you could actually gain more, learn more than if you have an easy win and there's your dollar versus like the $10 loss, where you actually take something away and you go back and you have some areas to work on. You talk a lot about training off the mat, sprints and weight training. How important is that for you or for a competitor?
I think it's important because we have to be realistic. And like I have ebooks. This will be my one advertisement. Like I have ebooks about jiu-jitsu and fitness, and I'm big into that because I've been banged up. It's a hard sport. It's like no matter how tough you are, how good you are, you're yourself, you're gonna you're gonna have to deal with bigger guys that are trying to beat you up. And your body's going to take some punishment. So you want your body to be prepared. So I think working out, if you consider jiu-jitsu a sport like any sport, then being an athlete is important. And being an athlete is going to mean being in tip-top shape. And that could be weight training, body weight, fitness, diet, everything to make your life easier. So I believe that jiu-jitsu is a sport when we're training.
Yeah.
So I treat it like a sport. And, as I get older, or at any age, you should be, again, athletically inclined if you want to excel at it and if you want to do it often. But again, there's also that mindset of, it's all technique and it's recreation. But the reality is, you can't tell me that if I go to 20 different schools, people aren't going to want to take my head off. You know what I mean? Like it's all good, but they want to test me.
Yeah, and speed and power are relevant. Technique is important too, but there's multiple things that affect how your technique plays out, and being more athletic is definitely beneficial than being less athletic, if you want to make it that simple. You mentioned you do have a lot of ebooks out there. Can you think of, to narrow it down to just one or two maybe, that have really helped people the most, that have been the most beneficial to the people that have read them?
Yeah, I had like one. I'll put it out there again. It was like Beginner Jiu-Jitsu. I think that was a nice guide. It was a text book that I wrote. It was one of my first books. And then I think more recently the 5-day challenge for fitness. And I'm not just saying it because I just put it out recently. But the hardest thing I think is just having some structure, having some momentum. And that's what I'm trying to do for people, is just like, we all know so much, but we're overwhelmed, we're frustrated, and we don't know how to filter things. So if hey, here's some jiu-jitsu movements that can help you, that you are going to like to do, that's going to make changes for you. Because a lot of my books, there are a lot of technique and they're cool, but like sometimes people don't open them. Sometimes people don't read them because there's so many books, there's so many videos, there's so many things. So I think like there's things where I'm like, hey, it's a challenge, it's a crash course, like, take action, like build momentum. Those are good things for me and for the viewers, I feel, that are valuable for people. But like, I'm not going to be like, oh, well, the sweeps one, the abs one, the this one. Because it's just like, I get feedback, but it's not like I like the instant feedback. Like, yeah, I'm doing it.
Yeah,
I love it.
It's more rewarding to get the more instant feedback and see people having success from the book that you've wrote and help them out. Can you remember what you were like as a blue belt, and kind of share maybe some traits that you had or how you rolled? And
yeah, well, I got my blue belt when I was a blue belt. I was quote unquote tough. I was athletic. I had a wrestling background, and I think a lot of the times I was kind of too tough in terms of like the wrestling. Like I wasn't that technical. So even though I was quote unquote good, I didn't know a lot of what I was doing. I didn't study as much. So I was a good blue belt who was fast and hectic. My advice for other people would be to not do that, to be more of a student, and to be more present with what you're learning, write it down, think about it, also be a good athlete. But that's how I was. And people thought I was like really good. But I look back and it's just like, well, what could I show people what I was doing? I couldn't really show much of what I was doing. But that's how I was. And I put my body through a lot. And it's good. And I wasn't afraid of any belt and all that stuff. But like, again, you use your natural attributes when you can. And I did. And that's what I was like. I was like a guy who was a good wrestler who was a blue belt. And that's a dangerous way to be, but it's also not a very educational way to be for that blue belt if they're relying on their assets and not relying on the technique. Because at the end of the day, I also believe it was Royler Gracie who said, one day you're going to wake up and you're not an athlete. You're going to have to learn to put your hand here, your hip here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like I'm still a great athlete and I work out, but like I think being an athlete and using that mindset of technique is the ultimate thing that you can do. So that is my time as a blue belt with, expanding on a general lesson there.
Very good. I appreciate you sharing that, and I think that's fairly common for a solid wrestler to get the blue belt and still play the tough wrestling game. It takes sometimes a little bit more time and understanding of jiu-jitsu to realize that it's okay to be on your back and it's okay to not go real hard all the time and to really open up and start learning things that you at one time thought you weren't going to ever learn. Certain techniques or submissions. I do like how you said you have a basic game. You don't do a whole lot of like, I guess, like trendy things. You like to stick to the things that you consider basic techniques. Would you say that's correct?
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm interested in the new stuff, and if I learn the new stuff, I'm going to drill it, and I'm going to try to implement it, and be really careful and real smart about it. Like, I'm definitely, I don't want to, I need to articulate this a little bit because I want to be clear. Like, I appreciate all the new stuff. I think it's really cool. And I think it should all be extensions from something solid that you have. And that's not to say that doesn't mean you can't just go right into the Brimbolo if that's what you want to make solid. But if I'm not into that game, I like to extend it from what I do know. Like, okay, I'm good at De La Hiva, so I'm going to take it and now I'm going to add this part of it and be thorough and be intelligent about it. Not just have like all these different one-offs of my game that are just like these offshoots that really aren't connected and they're just like, I don't know where to place them, and they just, you know what I mean? Like I think you have to have your game put together. You could do anything. Just like, again, you could do a podcast, you're good at it. You can do jiu-jitsu, you're good at it. You can do wrestling. You could do anything, but learn it that same process. Don't think it's just going to, I just learned this today, and it's all of a sudden just going to click. And if it does click, it's because you're good at the process. Those are my thoughts on that, and I just want to be clear. So
you kind of got a little bit into like, not just learning a technique, but developing your own game plan. The moves that work well together, so that you actually can get. Maybe you have a great choke from the back, but if you can't take the back, it's pretty much worthless. So, what advice would you have for somebody, a couple of years in that for developing their own game plan and getting to the next level?
Yeah, even deeper within that sphere that you're talking about, again, it's the process. So if I'm good at taking the back, and like that's all I'm good at, and I'm a white belt, man, how did I learn how to take the back and get good at it? Okay, that process to take the back and get good at it, now I'm going to learn how to take the back and get an armbar. Now I'm going to learn use that same process to get a takedown. I'm going to use that same process to do this. I'm going to use that same process. So that same building process, which is how you learn everything in life, should apply to how you're learning everything in jiu-jitsu. It just may take longer depending on how long you've spent time doing it. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
Like there's white belts, like one of my white belts, man, he was much smarter than me. He was a much better learner than me. I just happened to be in it for a longer period of time. I didn't think I was better than him at jiu-jitsu. I just knew more than him. But like his process for learning, I just think like some people think of white belts like there's such a difference, but there really is no difference. It's just the time doing this activity. Because I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I have a process that got me here. If I start doing podcasts, I'm going to do the same thing I did to learn jiu-jitsu. I'm going to be smart. I'm going to be calm. I'm not going to have an ego. I'm just going to try to learn how to do the podcast, and I'm going to ask a lot of questions the same way I get a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I do like how you expanded it beyond just how to find your own game, is to acknowledge the process of how you've got to what you're good at. Like my process, and I haven't really thought about it, but I like to do positional sparring. So if I want to get better at triangle, I'm going to start with, get a couple guys, after we're done rolling and start with the triangle and finish, figure out how to finish it. Maybe I need to set up better. So that's my process. I need to spar the positions. I'm not real good about seeing the technique and knowing it. I'm not good about, live rolling helps, but I learn a lot faster when it's a live partner, but we can keep going back and forth the same spot over and over again and get that good time in there with that. That's how I learn best. So that's my process.
And you know what? That's a great process that you're talking about. Like, that's Dan Gable. He did a lot of positional wrestling. Like some people do what you do. A lot of people do the other thing. And if they do the other thing the normal way and do what you do, or just do what you do, it's like, you learn the macro through the micro, like as Marcelo Garcia kind of talks about, like limiting the moves. And I think your process is kind of analogous, because you're limiting the move and you're probably seeing the bigger picture from within that move. But again, it's all the process even within that, which is the same for larger concepts or smaller concepts. But I'm sure within what you're doing, there's not a lot of people doing that, so your triangle is going to be exceptional. Then if you apply that to another part, it's going to be exceptional because you've spent time, rather than like trying to do everything, which everybody is doing because so many of the classes are taught randomly.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Absolutely. That's what I came up with. The BJJ brick idea is to have some solid moves, and when you get hit with one, it felt like I hit with a brick. This guy had an awesome triangle, or he took my back every time, like in seconds. That feels like I hit by a brick. That's kind of why I thought of that. But
nice.
I don't like the idea of just dabbling in random technique. I mean, you can if you want to, but you're not going to have much growth and development. Pick a couple of bricks and get good at them, and they'll feel like you have some weapons to throw.
Nice. I like that. That's a cool story. You should tell that story more.
I probably should. It's been a while since I've explained that one. That's a good point, and it would probably help build the brand a little bit.
Yeah, and maybe, I haven't done many podcasts, but, I could, if I ever do, I used to, maybe I'll have you on or something, or just like try to learn stories, like, because that story you're talking about and all you're learning and you're teaching, I appreciate you, having me on, but it sounds like you have a lot of knowledge yourself too, and you should get that out there as well in terms of the BJJ brick and yourself with your knowledge too, because it's beneficial to everybody.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. A couple more questions for you real quick. What are some traits of an ideal student?
Somebody who's shows up, who's nice, who's willing to learn, and who cares about the school, their instructor, and the students, and is just a good person in that regard. Like I'm a really nice guy as a teacher. Like I'm super nice, and people like to, I can easily be taken advantage of, and and a lot of people do, but there's always like some students sometimes who'd be like, hey, do you need help with anything? And like to me, that was like an exceptional student, like if you're super nice, believe me, you get walked on. But there are some people that can appreciate it, and they're there for the reason of they're really good people. They respect their instructor. They want to help them out, and they realize, it's not just a business. It's not just about the money. Because if you think like that, I think it's and I'm not saying that it has to be this deep relationship, but like, the more you help people, the more they usually are inclined to help you. And if you're like really helping out an instructor and he's really tired or something, like, but you ask a question, but like he realizes you really helped him out, like it's going to benefit you too, because the person's going to go out of their way to help you. Just like a friendship, just like any relationship, like respectful to your instructor, respectful to your school, asking a lot of questions, and believing in yourself. And a big thing I had with some of my students was, you talk about winning and losing in jiu-jitsu, and we talked about it, and some people are like, we don't want to focus on winning, and that's cool. Like, but sometimes it would get to the point where, like, I'd say, you want to be the best. And, like, now it's like, you can't say that. Oh, I want to be my best, or I just want to do it to have fun. But sometimes people, I think, were lying to themselves, and they weren't giving themselves enough credit because they were older, or they had this, or they had that, whatever excuse they made for themselves. So don't make any excuses for yourself, and try to be the best that you can be. And if it happens to be the best period, then that's great. But think highly of yourself every day you go into practice to be the best that you can be. Don't accept that other people can just beat you because they just have years of experience over you. Try to do something to make yourself better and not give yourself any excuses. And I feel that is even if you always suck, it's still going to make you better to have that mindset of, I hate going with people as a black belt where they're just like, oh, Ken's a black belt. Like, how much of a challenge is that for me? Like when I was a blue belt, I didn't think like that. I used to think like, I'm going to get that guy one of these days. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to get better. So I think people need to have the mindset of the confidence of, like, it's just a matter of time. And it's not about competing with the person, but it's about self-respect, and it's about believing in yourself to be the best that you can be, which may happen to be better than other people, which is fine. Because if you study it, you go for a job, you have to be, quote, better than somebody to get the job. And there's 100 people there and you got to feed your family. You don't settle for second best. You know what I'm saying? You got to get the job.
Love that answer. That's awesome advice for on the mat, off the mat. Be a student in life, and sometimes it is about hard competition. What would be a good goal for a student to have their first year of jiu-jitsu?
Every day, setting goals every day, practice. I wouldn't even necessarily make a year goal. I would set more short-term goals.
Yeah.
And then, like, as they progress, maybe they could look out and see where it's going and how they want to make that long-term goal. Like, okay, just say I want to be, quote, good in jiu-jitsu, like in a proving grounds kind of way, where I'm going to compete. Like, that would be called a proving ground to me. It doesn't mean everybody needs to compete. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean you won't be good if you compete. It doesn't mean you won't be your best if you can compete. Because there are some amazing people that don't. But, like, just say that was, for instance, one of my goals. Okay, I want to be a good competitor and win all these events as a white belt. So 2 months out, well, what am I going to do? Well, week 1, I'm going to work on this. Week 2, I'm going to work on this. And then I'm going to get the gold medal at this competition. Like, that might be your goal. So you set your days up to make that goal happen. I believe it was like Kerry Kolak, and I'm going to talk about this because it's very important in regard to this question, because there's a bigger answer here. He says, everyone at the Olympic level, he's a wrestler, they all had their practices planned out a day or two ahead of time. They had their partners, they had what they were going to do, how many matches, their workouts. I'm not saying like that's possible right now in jiu-jitsu at a lot of places, but like, I think having things planned out, having things written down, dissecting things, making time, a half hour to study in my jiu-jitsu. After practice, I go in my car for 10 minutes, half hour, write down what worked, what didn't work, self-evaluation, self-reflection. You're going to see huge gains. So the answer to your question, like what goals should they have, I don't know, but the only goal that I have is to be the best that I can be. So that's what I would do. But if your goal is to just have fun, then just have fun, and maybe your goal is to show up to class. If your goal is to get good, then maybe take some notes and make sure you do 10 minutes of YouTube studying. If your goal is to be the best, then maybe you get a trainer, you do the studying, you do a half hour online on YouTube. It has to be something that you set and you structure for yourself. But I would say if you want to be, amazing, you're training twice a day, you're doing film study for an hour, you're doing training for an hour, you're eating right, and you're doing everything it would take you to be the best at jiu-jitsu, just like it would be the best at anything else in life.
What's next for you?
What's next for me? I'm working really hard right now. I'm doing like a lot of different consulting, fitness consulting, jiu-jitsu stuff, online marketing, building my life and starting to make more financial income in a good way from that. And what I'd like to do goal wise is to my goal was to have the time freedom to be able to train and not have to worry about anything financial. So I'm getting to that point, and that is my goal, to get back in jiu-jitsu and compete. And just like, it's crazy. I think that way. Everybody thinks that way in jiu-jitsu. I just want to train jiu-jitsu and travel. So like, that's where I'm gearing to go toward. And then have a family and stuff like that. How about yourself? It looks like you got a family. You're a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. What was your goal? Let me ask you.
I recently got married a little less than a year ago. The podcast has been a lot of fun. I'm doing that and just continue to train and get better. I haven't competed for a few years. I'm a firefighter, so when I train real hard, I get reminded that I need my body for work purposes. And I kind of shy away from that. I do need to get back out there and do it. I know I can do it safely, but that's been a little bit of a mental roadblock, I think, is me telling myself, I'm not going to... You don't get hurt just because you compete. So that's going to be... I hope to get back on the competitive mats pretty soon here, but just keep on going and having a good time with my wife. And I enjoy my work, so that's going good. And that's
nice.
What I got going on, I guess, so... And the podcast is a lot of fun, and I learn a lot, talking to guys like you, and learn a lot about how to, podcasting, and learn a lot about jiu-jitsu. So it's going pretty good.
Well, nice. Yeah, man, I really appreciate it. And, let me know when you get this podcast up. I can put it up or send it out to my email list. And, I'm going to check out your podcast more, check out your page more. And it sounds like, you got a lot of, great things. Firefighting is a great job, and you're married and you're training jiu-jitsu and living the life, and that's awesome, man. And again, it's an honor and pleasure to be here and talk to you. And thanks so much for asking me questions. It makes me feel, my big ego and stuff like that. I love it, Now, but seriously, it's really cool to talk about these things and talk with you.
All right. Well, thank you very much. It's an honor to have you on the show. And,
absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Well, that wraps up our interview with our friend Ken Primola. I want to thank him for giving us the time. And like I mentioned before, Ken crosses the line. You reach that point in your training where you haven't worked this hard before, and there's like a line on the floor. It's like, what happens when I cross that? When I train a little bit harder? When you cross it, nothing bad happens to you when you cross that line. You actually just train a little bit harder than you've trained before. So keep crossing that line, guys. Keep pushing. That's when you're pushing yourself. Keep pushing yourselves to train harder. It's only going to benefit you.
Yeah.
It's like, in the class, whether the group rolls 2 times or you guys roll 8 or 9, whatever, there's always a few more people that want to roll a little bit more. Those, if you're not one of those people, cross the little line and roll one more time that you're not used to rolling there. It's only going to be good for you.
And I'll tell you, Byron is a master at crossing that line. I haven't really used the word crossing the line until, Ken brought it up, but the example Byron just gave you, Byron is almost always one of the last people on the mat. Byron is always there. Sometimes you're getting ready to leave, and Byron's like, "Hey, one more roll." He helps people cross that line. So that's one of the reasons probably why Byron's so good right now. He's crossing the line and always that last guy on the mat.
I just try to get the most out of each. I'm not able to practice every day. I'm not able to train. So when I am there, I have that time. I've done all the times to get to there. I've drove there. I'm gonna have to drive back home. What's another 5-10 minutes on the mat?
Yeah, that's
That
5-10 minutes is just going to help your cardio. It's going to help your technique. It's going to make you better. You take 5 or 10. You take an extra roll 3 days a week.
Yeah.
5-10 minutes. That's 30. 15 to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
That's just 1 week times 52 weeks a year.
And
How
so
much more time?
And so what if I'm 8 minutes later getting home that day?
Yeah.
And to be honest, usually when people don't want to cross that line, I got to get going. I could beat him out the door still.
Yeah.
By just getting my stuff together and walking out the door and not sitting around talking with everybody like I usually
If you really, that's the big thing. You do see a lot of people doing that and talking, and 30 minutes later they're still there.
Yeah, and that's fine too. I mean, you got to
nothing wrong with that.
Enjoy the social aspects of jiu-jitsu, but if your excuse is that I have to go home for X, I can't roll one more time.
Yeah.
And you stand around for 15, 20 minutes, you could have rolled another time.
Yeah, but some people like to show up for the chokes and then the jokes afterwards.
Yes.
So, chokes and jokes.
Chokes and jokes, my friends. That's what you get at jiu-jitsu class. Like we're saying before, if you haven't gone by and liked Ken's Facebook page, facebook.com/ILoveBJJ, and the man truly does love
BJJ.
Jiu-Jitsu, that's right. If you'd like to get a hold of us, our email is bjjbrick@gmail.com. I want to just throw this out there. I'll be a little bit slow getting back with emails this week. I'll get them still, but it'll be a little bit more of a delay than usual.
Well, Byron, I haven't told you this, but I will check our emails this week. Byron does most of the work, as you can probably tell. I just show up for the interviews, and so, the real credit goes to Byron, but I will answer the emails, so don't worry about that.
Easy
so,
way to
yeah,
get
definitely
Gary.
send some emails. You'll get a new guy answering them, which is perfect.
Yep.
Yeah.
Also, you could like our Facebook page.
Yep, and also don't hesitate to go onto iTunes and give us a 5-star review. We appreciate all the reviews, and we appreciate all the comments and questions that you send to us to make the show better. And if you have an article, or one of your teammates or anybody has an article, or just found an article you like, send it to us. Maybe we can use it for the next show.
Gary, just like our last episode, we're still giving away the patches. If you want a free patch, because I haven't got the system together to sell a patch online, because it just seems like a lot of work to me. But we'll give some away. How you would do that would be go to the iTunes page for the podcast, leave a 5-star review, and then make it funny. If you make it funny, we'll happily read it on the air. And as soon as you do that, and please be from the United States. Not that we have anything against anybody else, but I think it's expensive shipping patches around the world. So throw that out there. Sorry, everybody, but this offer is only for people in the U.S. But go on there, make a funny review, and then email us right when you do that, so we know it's actually you, and then we'll get back with you and get you out your patch.
Yeah, and if you do that too, make sure you email us. We've other stuff we've tried to give away, we've emailed people, and I don't know if they weren't checking their email, but we've had trouble giving stuff away. So definitely check your email.
Yeah, check your email and let us know when you write the review.
Yeah, because we want to give stuff away, and we definitely got some nice patches for people. And don't forget too, if you're traveling in the Midwest and you happen to come through Wichita, Kansas, or anything, don't hesitate to give us a call or send us a message, because we're definitely down to roll with any of our listeners, and we know we can learn from you guys. You guys can learn from us, and we'll just have a good time. Can't beat
Absolutely,
that.
we'll make it happen if it's at all possible.
The BJJ Brotherhood.
That's right, man. Next week we're going to be just me and Gary talking about developing an atmosphere of learning and leadership in your jiu-jitsu gym. It doesn't matter if you're a coach or not, you're a white belt. You're going to gain something from this episode. Just me and Gary sitting down talking about some development in the jiu-jitsu community and in your gym itself. And Ken also gives a quote of the week in next week's episode. So more Ken Primola to go.
Yeah, so definitely Ken Primola's quote next week. Don't want to miss that.
All right, one last thing here, just for fun. I think it would be kind of fun, Gary, if we prank called a few coaches.
That could be fun till we got beat up.
Yeah, because these guys are usually pretty good at jiu-jitsu. So
yeah, that could end up
how
badly.
about if you have a coach that you think that they would appreciate being pranked, and maybe put that on the air, drop us an email. Tell us a little bit about the situation. We'll call them if it fits right. We don't make them actually mad at us. I think the plan would be to call them and be like, "Oh, yeah, man, I want to train. I'm more into like smashing people. Not really using technique." And
I'd like to train for like 2 weeks and maybe get in the cage, because I've been reading books and watching the UFC for a long time, and I'm 27-0 in street fights.
yeah, and I don't want to get a gi, but I already have my UFC gloves.
Yeah, yep, and I bought a black belt.
Just call them up, and that's the game plan. So if anybody thinks that their coach would be a fun victim for this, and also have a good attitude towards a good joke, because not everybody can take a joke.
Yeah, that's the key. We don't want to offend anybody. We just want to make it fun.
Yeah.
And hopefully have a couple laughs over it and meet some new friends.
Yeah, and get a little exposure for the gym as well. So if you think your coach would be a good candidate, drop us a line or a message on Facebook or an email, and we'll be happy to look into that. It'd be a new segment, and that'd be pretty funny.
That could be funny. That'll be a good time.
All right, my friends, next week we'll be happy to be back with you.
Yep. Have a great week. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening. I hope you find the time today to roll. After all, the best way to get better at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Here is another segment of unnecessary censorship. Yeah, and that's fine too. I mean,
Yeah,
you got to
nothing wrong with that.
enjoy the social
Yeah.
aspects of jiu-jitsu, but
Yeah.
if your excuse is that I have to go home for I can't roll one more time,
Yeah.
and you sit around for 15, 20
Yeah.
minutes, you could have rolled another time.
Yeah, but some people like to show up for the jokes and then the jokes afterwards.
Yes.
So, jokes and jokes.
And jokes, my friends. That's what you get at.